It seems you've suddenly come into a large sum, around $500 million. And now, everything's moving at a whirlwind pace. Everyone's thrilled and big plans are already underway. You're designing a lavish new home, and rumor has it that a dream kitchen is part of the vision. Your mother-in-law is practically enchanted by the idea. Meanwhile, your husband, Jerry, has made the decision to quit his job and start a business, believing this newfound wealth is from Cheryl's inheritance. But wait, there's a catch. Cheryl hasn't actually received anything yet. You're now left contemplating the idea of quitting your own job to dive into construction, but something about all this feels off. Why rush into these big projects without any actual funds in hand? While it's clear that some money is on the horizon, is it really wise to jump into such significant commitments before it's even been confirmed? Before diving into these plans, maybe it's best to hit pause and think things over. Your father-in-law suggests a family vacation to Hawaii, something that might help ground the situation. Adding another layer of complexity, it almost seems as though they're all planning to use the money from your mother's inheritance as their personal funding for whatever they want. The thought of it is infuriating, and you're left feeling angry and unsure of how to confront it. To make sense of it all, let's rewind a few months to understand how things unfolded. My name is Cheryl. I'm 36 years old, a high school teacher, and married to Jerry, who's a year older than me. We've been married for 8 years, and shortly after we said our vows, our daughter Sarah was born. Since then, our life has been a constant juggle of work and family responsibilities. Today, we're heading to the hospital to visit my mother. "Hey, Grandma," Sarah says excitedly as we arrive. My mom greets her with a gentle smile, running her fingers through Sarah's hair. I can tell she looks frailer than before, her once vibrant face now subdued with age. There's a man in a suit standing beside her bed. When our eyes meet, he gives me a subtle nod before quietly exiting the room. "Mom, who was that?" I ask, curiosity piqued. "Oh, just someone I know. Nothing to worry about," she reassures me, her voice calm. She turns her focus back to us. "How have you been, Cheryl? And how's Jerry?" Her soft blue eyes still sparkle with that same strength I've always admired in her. She met my dad while he was working overseas in the import-export business, and moved to Canada to marry him. Together, they raised me in a new country, navigating every challenge life threw at them with resilience and love. Growing up, my mom was my biggest teacher. She instilled in me the values and knowledge that now enable me to be a teacher myself, and I'm forever grateful for the loving and supportive upbringing she gave me. Sadly, my father passed away a few years ago, and now it's just been my mom, dealing with her health problems and frequent hospital stays. She eventually passed on the family business to a relative and now spends most of her time in the quiet solitude of her hospital room. "I'm doing well, Mom. Is there anything you need?" I asked during one of our visits. "Just having you and Sarah here is more than enough," she replies, her smile warm and comforting. After a bit of catching up, Sarah, at that age where she's becoming more independent, eagerly shares updates about her school and the books she's been reading. I'm so proud of her. She's blossoming into a bright, honest child, and despite my bias, I see it clearly. When we get home, Jerry greets us. "Hey, welcome back. How's my mom doing?" "Same as always," I reply, and then ask about his day. "How was your seminar? I heard it was a good one." Lately, Jerry has been attending seminars all about quitting his job and starting some kind of side hustle. It seems he's on a mission to chase more money, even though we're managing just fine with my teacher's salary. To be honest, I'm not thrilled about his growing obsession with financial gain, something I suspect he picked up from his parents. They've always been frugal, constantly asking us for small loans and rarely indulging in gifts, even for special occasions like Christmas. Thankfully, they live far enough away that we don't interact too often. Despite this, Jerry is still a big help around the house, which keeps things manageable for us. I found comfort in our simple life, surrounded by my mom, Jerry, and Sarah. But everything changed one day when I received a call from the hospital. Mom's health had suddenly worsened, and she was in critical condition. We rushed to her side, not knowing what to expect. With her last bit of strength, she looked at me and said, "Cheryl, I've always wanted you to be happy. Take care of Sarah." Her words lingered in my mind as we faced the harsh reality of her fragile state. She meant everything to me. "I love you," were her final words. My mom, who had dedicated her life to raising me and adored Sarah more than anything, left us with those tender parting words. At her funeral, Seeing her serene expression, all I could do was cry. Sarah, standing by my side, cried with me. It was an unbearable moment, but we were together in our grief. Sometime after Mom passed, an envelope arrived from a law firm. It had an unfamiliar return address. Inside, to my astonishment, was my mother's will, which left everything to me. Mom and I had never discussed inheritance, so the contents of the will came as a complete surprise. Still shaken, I decided to visit the law firm to understand the details. When I arrived, I was greeted by Mr. Roy, the attorney. "Hi, I'm Mr. Roy," he introduced himself. He wore glasses, the same man who had been in the hospital room when I visited Mom. "You were there when I saw Mom," I remarked, recognizing him immediately. "Yes, we met briefly," Mr. Roy confirmed, his tone soft. "Your mom entrusted me with something very important," he added, his words almost bringing me to tears once again. $500 million. I blurted out in shock, unable to contain my disbelief. "Yes, Cheryl," he replied gently. "When your dad passed, your mom handled all the inheritance. Now, with what she saved and what she's left you after taxes, that's the amount." I had always known my parents were well off, but I'd never involved myself with their financial matters or asked for money after getting married. The sum was overwhelming. I didn't expect this," I admitted, feeling a wave of dizziness from the revelation. "But I see it as a sign of love from my mom." Mr. Roy nodded. "I'll leave it in your hands, Cheryl. Your mom cared for you deeply, and she asked me to assist you if needed. Feel free to reach out anytime." "Thank you," I responded, grateful for his kindness. I nodded before leaving the office, trying to absorb everything. As the 50th day memorial of my mother approached, Jerry started bringing up my inheritance more and more. He had always known my parents were wealthy, but his constant probing became increasingly uncomfortable, especially during my mourning period. I wasn't ready to face these discussions yet, but it was becoming harder to avoid them. Whenever I asked Jerry to drop the subject of my inheritance, he would agree, only to subtly bring it up again later. His persistence began to feel intrusive, especially as I was trying to navigate my grief. The atmosphere at my mother's memorial was already emotionally charged, and the last thing I needed was more stress. But then, Cheryl's in-laws added an unexpected layer of complexity to the situation. Her father-in-law approached her with an offer. "Cheryl, if you're worried about handling the inheritance, we're here to help," he said, his voice full of assurance. "We've been through inheritance disputes before. They can get complicated, especially with unmarried siblings involved." Her mother-in-law quickly joined in, eager to offer her support. "We're here for you, Cheryl," she added with a smile. Despite their kind words, Cheryl felt uneasy. She had never relied on her in-laws for financial matters before, and their sudden eagerness to get involved left her feeling uncomfortable. She could only offer a vague response, trying to deflect their assumption that she needed their help. 2 months passed since her mother's passing, and Jerry finally broke his silence. "Have you gotten your mom's inheritance yet?" he asked, his tone blunt. The question sent a chill through Cheryl, and she hesitated before replying. "Not yet, it's a complicated process." But Jerry, seemingly frustrated, quickly ended the conversation and went to bed, leaving Cheryl with a sinking feeling in her stomach. The next evening, as Cheryl and Sarah were cleaning up after dinner, the doorbell rang. Sarah rushed to answer it, and Cheryl, glancing from the kitchen, saw her in-laws arriving. Jerry had just come home from work. "Why are they here?" Cheryl whispered to Sarah, a mix of surprise and anxiety in her voice. "It's okay, Mom," Sarah said, darting nervously to her room. Cheryl went to greet her in-laws at the door. Mr. Roy, her father-in-law, burst in cheerfully without waiting for an invitation. He grabbed a beer from the fridge and announced, "We're here to celebrate. You inherited over $500 million. We've even started building a duplex for all of us to live in, complete with your dream kitchen. Be happy, Cheryl." Her mother-in-law added dreamily, "Just imagine, a beautiful duplex, Cheryl." Cheryl stood there, overwhelmed, not only by the news of her inheritance but also by their sudden forwardness. The realization hit her that decisions about her life and finances were being made without her consent. The situation was quickly spiraling out of control. Then, Cheryl discovered that Jerry had unilaterally decided to put down half of their savings, as well as some of the money his parents had saved, toward a loan, all in his name. He expected it to be covered by her yet-to-be-received inheritance. He beamed with pride and anticipation, announcing, "I've quit my job and I'm starting a business with your inheritance." Cheryl was stunned. "Wait a minute," she said, trying to process it all. "What's going on? I haven't even received any inheritance yet, and you're talking about quitting your job and building a duplex?" "Let's not beat around the bush," Jerry replied, a tone of finality in his voice. "It's clear you've inherited. If you don't claim it within 2 months, you can't refuse it. You've definitely inherited, right?" It was then that Cheryl realized everyone had already assumed control over the funds, as if it was all settled. The weight of it all began to sink in. "I hadn't even claimed the inheritance yet, but Jerry and my in-laws were already making plans to live off what they assumed was mine, over $500 million, according to my father-in-law's rough estimate." "Thanks, Mom," Jerry said, seemingly oblivious to how overwhelming and inappropriate his demands were. "Make sure to arrange the money for the duplex and my capital." Hearing him speak like that left me reeling. I was furious and deeply hurt by their sense of entitlement to my mother's legacy, which was meant for me, not for their lavish fantasies. My main concern was Sarah, who was still in the other room. I tried to maintain my composure, but I could feel myself unraveling. Needing to escape, I excused myself. "I'm stepping out for a bit." They hardly noticed, too engrossed in their conversation about the inheritance. I left the house and walked to the nearby hilltop park. The night air was brisk, and as I reached the solitude of the park, tears began to flow. Alone, I cried silently, the cool air mixing with the hot tears streaming down my face. I was consumed by a rush of frustration and feelings of exploitation. Amidst the turmoil, thoughts of a potential divorce surfaced, but the image of Sarah held me back. My mother's last words echoed in my mind. "Take care of Sarah above all else." Those words grounded me, strengthening my resolve to protect Sarah's happiness and well-being, no matter what. As I wept on the hilltop, I was startled by an unexpected presence. Looking up, I found a calm figure approaching, their gentle words offering a moment of peace. 5 days later, with newfound resolve, I called a meeting at a restaurant with private rooms. When I arrived, Jerry wasted no time. "So you're back home. Did you withdraw the money?" he blurted out. "Cheryl, you shouldn't just leave without telling your husband." Ignoring their insinuations, I calmly placed the document on the table. It was a fill-out divorce notice. Jerry's face drained of color as he stammered, "Oh, what's this?" "I want a divorce," I said, my voice steady but firm, cutting through the tension in the room. Jerry's panic was immediate. He turned to my in-laws, who exchanged anxious glances. "You can't just leave us like this," Jerry exclaimed. "Ever since you inherited from your mom, you've become so greedy," he accused. I looked him straight in the eyes, unflinching. "Ever since I inherited, you've been out of control. Quitting your job, planning to live off my money, using my savings to fund your dreams, and now planning extravagant trips without consulting me. Tell me, who really changed when the money came into the picture? You can't just divorce me out of nowhere." Jerry's voice was desperate. "Half of everything is mine, including our savings, and half of the inheritance." As they pressed in with their demands, the door suddenly opened. Sarah and Mr. Roy, the attorney, entered, bringing a sudden hush to the room. "Dad, Grandpa, Grandma, you should know better," Sarah said, her voice steady and mature beyond her years. "Mom's inheritance isn't shared property, right?" Mr. Roy nodded, stepping forward. "I'm attorney Mr. Roy, and Cheryl's mother entrusted me with her legal matters. I've been advising Cheryl," he stated formally, leaving Jerry flustered. "Inherited property isn't shared," Mr. Roy continued. "It's not subject to division." "What? That can't be right." Jerry stuttered, his confusion evident on his face. Their shocked reactions confirmed what I had feared. They truly believed they were entitled to my inheritance. This misunderstanding, this sense of entitlement, only solidified my resolve. It was time to move forward with the divorce. I knew I had to protect not only my future but also Sarah's, ensuring our lives were free from the toxic entitlement that had already started to taint everything. "I'll stick by you no matter what," my husband shouted, his eyes bloodshot, his voice disregarding the gravity of the situation. "Stop it," Sarah intervened calmly, her quiet strength cutting through the tension. "Ever since Mom inherited, Dad hasn't thought about her once. Grandpa only cares about the money. They never even mention me. I can't see them as a family anymore." Jerry and my in-laws were visibly shocked by Sarah's words. When the inheritance issue first upset me, it had been Sarah who comforted me, saying, "Dad, Grandpa, and Grandma are wrong. They're trying to take Grandma's legacy. Mom, I'm with you. Let's face this together." Bolstered by her unwavering support, I had contacted Mr. Roy, our attorney, to arrange the meeting that had brought us here. Sarah's declaration seemed to strike a chord, but Jerry tried to sway her. "That's not true. Sarah, Dad wants what's best for you. Wouldn't you be happier with us?" My in-laws chimed in. "Children shouldn't interfere." With resolute frustration, Sarah responded, "I'm going with Mom. I can't stay with you anymore." She turned away decisively. "We've made our decision. Sarah and I will leave," I said calmly, which only fueled Jerry's anger. "I've never cheated, and you can't just force a divorce," Jerry spat. "I'll get a lawyer. We'll get that money," he threatened, desperation clear in his voice. Mr. Roy intervened quietly, his tone steady and reassuring. "The crux of the matter here is whether there are serious grounds for ending the marriage. Quitting his job, using our savings without consent, making decisions unilaterally, and Sarah's expressed distress. These are multiple points to support our case. Additionally, your daughter has recorded evidence of all of you pressuring Cheryl for her inheritance. That will serve as compelling evidence." Jerry slumped, defeated, and my in-laws' faces went pale. After that, Sarah and I left the restaurant, our path forward finally clear. A year later, thanks to Mr. Roy's diligent efforts, my divorce from Jerry was finalized. Sarah and I moved into my mother's old house, finding peace and a fresh start far away from the conflicts and greed that had marred our lives. The strength and clarity Sarah had shown that day in the restaurant had set us on a new path, one we would walk together, strengthened by our shared resolve. Despite our fresh start, remnants of the past continued to complicate our peace. Jerry sent numerous letters, each one a plea for reconciliation. More disconcertingly, he was seen near Sarah's school, an act that felt far too close for comfort. Concerned for our safety and privacy, we sought legal measures, and with Mr. Roy's steadfast help, we were able to secure a restraining order against Jerry. This decisive action helped reduce the unwanted intrusions and restored some semblance of peace in our lives. In the meantime, we heard through the grapevine that Jerry and my in-laws had gone ahead with their plans, building the duplex they'd envisioned. Yet life in their new home was not as idyllic as they had hoped. My retired in-laws found themselves back in the workforce, taking up jobs at a local factory to make ends meet. Jerry, despite his earlier schemes to live comfortably off my inheritance, was now doing manual labor. Neighbors whispered that the walls of the duplex were often filled with the sounds of constant arguments, making the family unpopular in their new community. Meanwhile, Sarah and I continued to forge a serene existence away from the turmoil of my former family ties. Our home was a sanctuary of peace and mutual support. Recently, Sarah expressed a strong desire to study abroad in my mother's homeland, a place I held dear. This idea resonated deeply with both of us, offering an opportunity to fully sever the lingering ties with Jerry and his intrusive attempts at reconciliation. Motivated by Sarah's dreams and our shared longing for a fresh start, we decided to move overseas. We used a portion of my mother's inheritance to facilitate this new chapter in our lives, a decision I believe my mother would have wholeheartedly supported. Sarah adapted wonderfully to her new school, thriving academically and socially in a way that filled me with immense pride. I too found fulfillment in securing a position as a teacher in our new home, embracing the opportunity to shape young minds while rebuilding our lives. As we settled into our routine in this new country, the tranquility and stability we experienced were profound. Each peaceful day reinforced our decision to leave the past behind and embrace the future. With hope in our hearts, we look forward to continuing our journey in this new land, confident in the support we have for each other and optimistic about what the future holds.